where matter is composed of indivisible pellets. You see? The atom, our temnos, cannot be split. Indivisible pellets of matter. That being pellets of bare, senseless matter have no relationship to anything else, except incidental spatial relationships. You see? And in a uniform space and time, their own spatial temporal identity doesn't mean a thing. It's only in relationship that's external. So he's talking of the atomistic nature of things, and these simple ideas come and go, vibratory existence. You see? Later on, when he gets to talking about quantum physics, he comes back to this notion of vibratory existence because the quanta of energy in quantum physics come and go. You see? And if you think of the life cycle of any organism, primitive or advanced, we come and go, but biodegradable. You see? Well, the unit of reality in his theme is the event. Events come and go. Vibratory existence. Okay. So this notion then develops. The question is whether this vibratory existence has any meaning or not. And he points out that he's going to change the picture from a mechanistic picture of these indivisible little pellets, you see, to an organic picture, or if you like, an organismic picture. The model is not that of a machine, cause-effect mechanisms. It's that of an organism, where the parts of an organism are interdependent. You see? They don't have separate existence. They're internally related in the sense that the one is defined in its relationship to something else. That's why it's important to watch what you eat. You see, because of the organic interrelatedness of everything, essentially. So he's going to have an organic model then with internal relationships rather than a mechanistic model with external relationships. You'll find that he talks of atomism and atomistic philosophy. Yes, he has sort of an atomistic view of events. But they're atoms in an organic interrelationship with one another, internally related to each other, growing out of one another. You see, get the genetic notion that we were on last time, that an event has a life cycle. From the initial objective data, which give rise to a new event, through to the final satisfaction, the culmination, which then becomes the thesis for the next antithesis of further objective data, which precipitate another event. You see, like in Hegel, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and the synthesis then is the thesis for the next thesis, antithesis, synthesis, and the synthesis is a thesis for the next thesis, antithesis, synthesis. All right, Whitehead changes the vocabulary, but does the same thing. So the satisfaction provides a thesis for the next event. It's a vibratory existence, but with internal relationships. Chapter 3 does deal with that problem of induction. And after talking of the difference between a mechanistic model and an organismic model, the difference between atomism with external relationships and atomism with internal relationships, he can now address the problem of induction. Why is induction a problem? Precisely because the moments of experience are unrelated one to another. They are atoms of perception that have no bearing on future experience. There are no internal relationships. So that the association of ideas is by some sort of psychological process, but there is nothing intrinsic to any one idea which means that something else is around the corner. In other words, it was the theory of external relations in Hume's atomistic view of ideas and impressions, which means that you do not, therefore, have any impression of the causal connection between experiences or ideas or events. The causal connectedness would be a relationship, but you don't experience those relationships. All you experience is constant conjunction, sequence. A followed by B, always A followed by B, always A followed by B, but you don't see the relationship. The causal connection is unknown. And because the causal connection to what is as yet beyond present experience is unknown, well, how can you make inductive generalizations? How can you, by inductive reasoning, make predictions? So you have a problem with induction. So the problem that he cited at the beginning, that the order of nature, the uniformity of nature, the orderedness of nature, is a presumption that's not empirically proven. You see? And that statement at the beginning is simply a reference to Locke's problem. Now he knows why Locke had a problem. Namely, the wrong scientific abstraction led him down a garden path, created the problem. But as he indicated, in concrete experience, in the immediacy of our own experience, is no problem. So he talks then of this in terms of two fallacies. You see, the critical function is trying to criticize the abstractions, and he finds two fallacies here: the fallacy of simple location and the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. Now, the fallacy of simple location is the assertion that things have fixed locations in space and time. That if here is a spatial field, things have fixed locations just like that. Simple location. That is to say, you think of their location as abstracted from everything else. Whereas in reality, these locations are defined in terms of relationship to other things. And by the time you bring the time dimension into the notion of spatial location, then obviously there is no simple location. You see, in terms of the relationship between these 3 points. If in the process of time this is moving that way, and this is moving that way, and this is, say, stationary, then what you say about the relationship between point A and point B is going to be different at different times. And what you say about C being in relationship to A and B, makes it even more confusing. You see. It's just that there are no such things as simple locations because of movement in time. Because space is just a pattern of relationships. Nothing more. You see, he's getting at the relativity of space-time. So then, the fallacy of simple location. A second is the fallacy of misplaced concreteness. You see, concrete, abstract, those are the antitheses. Misplaced concreteness is when you give concrete existence to an abstraction. You see, and the idea of a fixed point is an abstraction that doesn't exist because everything's in change, motion. So the idea of a fixed point is an abstraction, fallacy of misplaced concreteness. The idea of an event without internal relationships to other events is an abstraction. So in constructing a scheme in which you have events or atoms of that sort, misplaced concreteness. And there's nothing that could be said about you that's worse from Whitehead's standpoint, that you engage in the fallacy of simple location or the fallacy of misplaced abstraction. Those are the unpardonable sins, philosophically. Yeah, and his reason for this is that they fail the test of empirical adequacy. Because abstractions of that sort are just not adequate to concrete experience. You see, so that criterion of empirical adequacy which he has in testing abstractions comes into play in that way. Okay, on that topic, take a look at page 50. Page 50. Bottom of the page, the new paragraph. Are you following all right? Okay. Bottom of the page, new paragraph. This simple location of instantaneous material configurations, simple location of instantaneous material configurations, is what Bergson has protested against. Well, you've read a bit about Bergson in Stumpf. Okay. Another process philosopher. As far as it concerns time, yes, Bergson stressed relativity of time. He protested against it so far as it's taken to be the fundamental fact of concrete nature. He calls it a distortion of nature due to the intellectual spatialization of things. I agree with Bergson. But I don't agree that it's a vice necessary to the intellectual apprehension of nature. Bergson thought it was. And in subsequent